Awesome. Okay, long-term relationship back on the scene and not yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Chris. Okay, awesome. Right, let's get started. Let's talk about why we are actually here today. So, so first of all, and as I said, please feel free to use the chat if you need to. I'll keep my eye on it as much as I can. So, obviously, this is New Year, New Love Masterclass. So we're just really thinking about, right, it's 2025, 2024 is gone. I hope you all had a great start to the new year so far. But now maybe this year you want to have a completely different situation when it comes to your love life. So I want you to kind of just imagine, you know, you're at the end of this year already. We're not trying to fast forward life, but just imagine, right? We, we want to kind of be at the end of this year thinking to myself or thinking to yourself, wow, I'm so happy. I've attracted this amazing person, this really loving, fulfilling relationship. It's the best relationship I've ever had. Right? That's really what I imagine you would love to get to by the end of the year. So you're able to look back on this year and just think, oh, I've had such a great experience. So if you could start that journey today, with those clear steps to make it happen for you, how would that feel for you? Hopefully, I'm hoping that will feel amazing for you. Please feel free to share, because that's what I'm here to help you with today, right? I want to walk you through what I believe are the 5 essential steps that you need to attract the right person into your life, to actually choose them, right? And to keep them. So it's all about how to attract the right people so I can have a healthy relationship. How do I make the choice to actually decide on this person? Then how do I keep this dream relationship of mine? Okay. And so there are these essential steps. So by the end of this masterclass, you're going to actually have the tools to know how to approach your dating experience and journey with clarity. So you're really clear on what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're looking for, having the confidence as well to put yourself out there and to date and to make the right choices, and also with excitement as well, because you're like, yes, I've got this now, I've got it figured out, I know how to do this. Okay. So just a bit about me, because I haven't met any of you before. So my name is Topé. I would say it's pronounced like top, the top that you wear and the air that you breathe, Topé. And I've helped so many singles transform their dating lives in different ways. Okay, so that might be just how to confidently date online, right, without letting it be frustrating, because I know it can be. Knowing how to let go of situationships and just walk away from people who are just not giving them what they want. Learning how to actually choose the right person rather than choosing the wrong person and constantly being in a relationship that's not working. How to get rid of patterns that are getting in the way of having a great dating experience or finding that person. Actually helping them find partners, actually helping them to keep their partner, by helping with the relationship challenges and frustrations, learning how to let go of the wrong people, being in something that is really not working, and actually being able to have that confidence and courage to walk away from it. I've helped people getting over their breakups as well, especially building up their self-love, really understanding about, what it wasn't about as well as what it was about, learning how to even face the truth about themselves so that they can make better choices. We don't always want to see those truths about ourselves, but it is actually ultimately us, um, you know, that really stands in our way, you know. And that's the beauty of that, is because if it is you, then you've got the power to get out of your own way and to make your dating life and your love life better for you. It's not external, it's not about the people, it's about us. If we can change us, then we're good, we're golden. So the reason that I do this is because I got married, goodness me, over 20 years ago now, and then I got divorced a few years later, and my dating life was turbulent since I got divorced. I'd been in and out of long-term relationships. I have children from my relationships. I was in a situationship that sucked. I was about for 5 years that went on. I dated online for over a decade, on and off, on and off. I was meeting people, I was having short-term relationships, connections. I was really looking for love. I really wanted love and security, which is the reason I got married in the first place. But I didn't even realize at the time that, we weren't actually properly matched. We were a bit of a mismatch. But because I was craving for that love and security, it was kind of driving my choices, and it drove me to that. And obviously he was a lovely person. I've been really lucky because I have actually met really nice people. I've never been with anybody unpleasant. I've never been in a toxic relationship apart from my situationship. And it was really about meeting a lot of misaligned people and just making the wrong choices, basically, and constantly feeling a lot of heartache and heartbreak. And this was really, I discovered, because I wasn't being intentional about my dating, about my choices. And that's because I didn't know about it. I didn't know that I needed to be intentional. I just thought I could just find love. I just, put myself out there, meet somebody, see if it worked, end of. And that's not really how it works. It could work like that, but it doesn't necessarily work, right? But once I started getting more intentional, I was able to start like attracting more suitable partners, people who were on the same page, they were looking for the same thing. And then that's when I was able to find my man now, the man of my dreams. Like, he's my dream partner. We've been together, it'll be 4 years this year in a few months' time. And we've also had our ups and downs and our challenges, but also my intentionality and my consciousness around dating was also poured into my relationships. I was being more intentional as well around my relationships, which is something we're going to talk about as well. And because I've gone through that journey, I've really seen, where I've gone wrong and what I needed to do to kind of get right. Okay. And then I've also helped other people do the same thing. And this is why, I do what I do. This is why I put myself out here to help people. I love having this meetup space because I know people are on here looking for people. So I really want to help as many people as I can to find their partner the right way, to reduce their frustration and their overwhelm and their heartache. Because I've come across so many people who just aren't intentional when they date, and they get into frustrating relationships and situations and things that are just not right for them, right? And I just want to help them avoid the heartache, because you can avoid it. There's so much you could do, and and to help you to actually find your right person, the right person, right? And you'll also find that when you are being more intentional, you're going to feel much more empowered. When it comes to dating, you're going to feel clearer because you know what you want, what you're looking for, what it is that you need to avoid doing, what it is that you need to do. And you'll just have so much more confidence. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is intentional dating. What's worked for me, what's worked for my clients. And I'm going to guide you through what I believe are the 5 steps that you need to take, right? And then we'll end with a Q&A. And I will also talk to you about an exciting opportunity if you want to go deeper. I did mention it on the blurb, but there's always ways to go deeper. But I'm going to give you what you need to know today to go away and to start that journey for yourself at the start of this year, right? So we're going to dive in to step 1. So step 1 is really learning about your dating patterns. Okay. This is absolutely crucial before you kind of move forward, because your patterns kind of like tell the story, like your patterns in love and dating, they tell the story for you about what's working and what's not working. Right. But you have to kind of know what they are. You have to understand what they are first in order to start making the changes. All right. If you don't know where it is that you're going wrong, you'll just keep doing it. Yeah, they'll just become sort of habits that you will not be able to break. So first of all, you've got to understand, like, why. This is going to help you to understand, why do I keep making the choices? Why do I keep ending up with this kind of person that's not right for me? Why do I keep going on the same kind of dates? Why do they end the same kind of way? Why do I keep feeling this way, etc.? Once you know what it is, then you can interrupt the pattern, right? You can shift it. So maybe, for example, you're somebody who often chooses unavailable partners, which that was definitely me. They were emotionally unavailable. And that could be as a reason because of you've got a fear of intimacy, right? You're actually scared of making that connection. You want it, but you're equally afraid of it because of your own frustrations and challenges and things that you've gone through as you've grown up. And because you're aware of that, then instead of actually connecting with those same people, you can actually stop and start dealing with the fear that you actually feel. You can deal and heal the fear of intimacy. That way you can then be much more open to available people, right? So it's basically like a pattern interrupt, but you have to know what the pattern is and you have to understand why you're doing it in the first place. And our patterns actually are a reflection of what we believe on the inside. What our core beliefs are about love, about our worthiness when it comes to love and relationships, or even just our beliefs about relationships. And these are deep rooted subconscious beliefs, not necessarily the things that are just ticking around in your mind, but the stuff that you actually feel like deep down inside. And when you understand them, then it helps you to kind of be like, oh, right, this is what I'm believing. Oh, this is why, as a result of this belief, I'm doing this. Right. So now I need to shift that belief. So, for example, one of a very common belief is, all the good ones are taken. There aren't any good guys out there. There aren't any good women out there, and if that's what you actually believe when you're dating, then it means subconsciously you're going to end up settling for less because you don't actually believe you're going to find a good person, right? So you'll take what you can get. You'll take the next best thing. Thank you, AV. Like you're hearing me. So once you know this, it's going to help you to sort of reframe that belief, right? Rather than thinking all the good ones are taken, you will have a more empowering thought, which will enable you to then see them. Then you won't be able to settle for less because you'll believe that they're out there. Okay, so knowing all this stuff, it helps you to kind of break the pattern. So if you don't have the self-awareness, which is one of my key values, is self-awareness, big time, then you will just keep repeating the same old, same old. So you've got to be aware of it. You've got to be aware of the pattern. You've got to be aware of the belief. Once you know what it is, then you can be intentional about creating something that's new, a new pattern, a new belief, a new behavior, a new choice, all the things that are going to actually serve you and help you when you're dating. So, for example, instead of rushing into a relationship because you're so keen to just maybe lock someone down, to be with somebody, to have good company, you'll actually start to slow down. If you recognize, like, yeah, I do, I'm constantly just rushing in. I was always like that. I just wanted to get exclusive quick. Let's just get exclusive. Let's just get committed because, I've been in all these casual relationships, or that situationship that I was in, it affected me. So it meant that I was just wanting to just get into something. I wanted somebody to say, yes, I want you. But I was overlooking all the other stuff. I was missing the red flags or ignoring them simply because I wanted to be in the relationship. But once I realized I was doing that because of the burn that I was feeling as a result of that situationship, I was able to start slowing down. And in fact, interesting enough, it was my now partner who kind of really taught me how to be a bit more of a slow burner because he was. So I had no choice but to slow down, but it enabled me to really get to know him and to really focus on the connection that we were building, and allowed me to really see, what was going on right in front of my eyes, whether he was really the right person for me. So that really made a difference. But the clarity is self-awareness, and clarity is so important. And it helps you as well to understand, like, where, when you know where you've been, then you can also start seeing, okay, these are the actions that I was taken that were getting me here, but this is actually where I want to go, right? I love doing this visual thing with it up and down. I don't know why, but say this is where you want to go. This is the kind of relationship that you want to get to, right? But actually, you're not taking any actions that are getting you here. All your actions are taking you here. So now when you know that that's what you've been doing, you can start shifting those beliefs and patterns so that you can start taking actions that will align you with where you actually want to get to with this person, this kind of relationship. So, you go from seeking external validation to seeking alignment in your values. That shifts, that changes the game. Okay, so does that make sense so far? Just give me a thumbs up or heart or comment in the chat if that is all really clear, just about, why it's so important to, like, know about your patterns, and understand also why those patterns are happening for you. Oh, Chris, oh, you were going to unmute yourself. But yeah, but just if you want to share.
I can't. I keep kind of not being able to find the chat.
Oh.
And I can't remember what your question was now, while I'm busy trying to find the chat bit.
Oh, I was just asking if that made sense about the dating patterns, and
Absolutely.
understanding them. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
brilliant. And I'm just going to share some dating patterns, some common ones. So, maybe you might be able to recognize yourself in these and be like, oh, yeah, that's me. That's something that I do. And then what it is, that's the basis of that. So, for example, maybe you don't find yourself expressing interest in somebody that you actually maybe like, because maybe you're afraid that they won't feel the same. So you don't share your feelings, you don't express yourself, and you close yourself off emotionally because you're afraid of rejection, right? That's can be a common pattern when you're putting yourself out there. You're not honest, you're not open about where you want something to go, so you will continually not have that person. It might be that you are actually just drawn to people because of how they look, you know, because they're really attractive or they've got a certain type of status. But really, the bottom line is you don't actually have shared values. You know, but for you, you just want to be validated by that person. So if they like you because they're so attractive or they have status, then you feel invalidated, right? That's a self-worth issue when you're seeking validation from somebody else rather than looking for the compatibility. So like I was talking about, you know, about moving too fast in a relationship. Maybe you're moving too fast emotionally, you're moving too fast physically without actually really vetting if somebody's the right person. So maybe you're the kind of person who calls somebody their soulmate on the second date, or you've had somebody do that, then you know that they're rushing it. They just want to lock that down. You want to lock that down, right? That's a common pattern. Maybe you're staying with somebody, you keep dating them who doesn't want the same future because you keep hoping that they might change. So you just stay way too long in the wrong relationship because you don't want to see the red flags, maybe because you're just afraid of being alone. You just don't want to be alone. So you keep going with that wrong person, regardless of the fact that it's very obvious they're not for you, or the flags are flowing up in front of your face, but you're just like, no, it's fine. They'll change. If I keep sharing this, if I keep telling them this, they'll be different. It's not happening, and you know it's not for you. You know, maybe you're dating somebody who is actually still hung up on their ex, but for you, in a way, that kind of keeps you a little bit safe because it means that you don't have to open yourself up emotionally to them because they're not really emotionally available to you. So you find yourself actually constantly being drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable. It could be that you are, you know, actually ignoring green flags by being with somebody. Like, you connect with somebody, like, oh yeah, they're nice, they've got all these good things going, but there's no spark, you know, and there's no spark with that person. It's not exciting with that person, maybe because you're so used to drama. Maybe you're used to the toxic patterns that you've got caught up in. So when you actually meet somebody who's nice and who's on the right, you know, the path as you, or, you know, who's on the same wavelength, got the same values, you kind of overlook that because you're not feeling that complexity or nervousness or anxiousness that you were stuck in before. And it's like, God, somebody's actually been consistent with me, someone who's aligned with me, that feels weird. Right? So that is actually a common pattern, believe it or not. Maybe you're actually assuming the worst before you even get anywhere. So you believe every date's going to fail before it even starts. Oh, this is probably just going to be another waste of my time anyway, because none of my dates work out. It always flops. It always goes wrong, right? That is something that people get caught up in. So you already go in with a half-hearted or a negative attitude, so you don't even give it a chance. And another one, last one, is like someone who's kind of got this very high, it's not even standards, I think it's just like a perfectionism. You've got this ideal list, this exhaustive list of criteria, and if they don't tick every single box, they're not for me, you know. Oh my goodness, I can't believe they like that program. Oh my god, we're not compatible, you know. Just little things where you might just be nitpicking on the tiniest thing because you think that your ideal person has to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to be perfect for you, right? There's no such thing as perfection. So those are some very like common patterns. I'd love to know, I'll answer that in a second, if there's anything there that you can actually relate to. And I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to keep your questions because I do want to actually answer them in the Q&A section, because I know if I answer them all now, I'll go off track. So hopefully that's okay. I'm definitely going to come to them because I love asking questions. But do any of those patterns sound similar? Chris, you said you're a slow burner, but you've got limited time as well because of your full-time care. I completely get that. But I think there's still a way to kind of build even with your situation. Yeah, does anybody recognize any of those patterns that you've been through, you're going through, you've experienced, or maybe you've experienced it from the other side from somebody else? I'd love for you to just share. Actually, you know what, I'm going to connect to that now. Bit about emotional unavailability. How can you tell? It's really somebody who's not prepared to kind of open themselves up. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to share their feelings. You know, they can't even connect with your feelings often because they don't know how to manage their own. So that's often what makes somebody emotionally unavailable. They're not available to you. You can't, it's like you can't reach them. Do you know what I mean? You can't get there. Like maybe there's only so much of themselves as well that they show you, or they want to focus on superficial topics, or maybe they want to focus all the time on just being physical, but they don't want to actually connect to you emotionally. You don't feel like you can express yourself fully to them, because they won't even know how to handle it. Does that make sense? I hope that's answered your question, AC. Oh, sorry, it was A. No, it was AC. It was AC who answered that. Right, hold on. What is meant by spark when guys refer to this? What's meant by a spark? I suppose it could be the feeling of excitement. It could be a chemistry thing. Often I think sometimes people say, well, I didn't feel that spark. I didn't feel that a sense of attraction to that person. They didn't do it for me. They didn't like give me that vavoom. But also it could be some people like the bad girls, the bad guys, the ones who make them like do, I want to say, a lot of work. And I think it is important for us, both sides, to earn our place in somebody's life. Like nobody actually owes us anything. We do have to invest and show up for people so that they actually can decide that we're there for them. And that goes both ways. But there are some people that maybe, they treat you mean to keep you keen. And that can be exciting. That's fun. That's a bit of a challenge. But if somebody's not a challenge, if they're maybe, actually just nice and not making it hard for you, that might be a little bit like, oh, that's a little bit boring. And I don't mean somebody who's a walkover. I don't mean somebody who doesn't have any boundaries. But yeah, that's what I mean. I hope that answers your question. I've never been in and have been in a number of long-term, you've never been rushed. Okay. Been in a number of long-term relationships, the last being 28 years. Wow, that was a very long-term relationship. Okay, I'm going to come back to your other question, AC, about the texting at the end. Okay, just want to keep in line with this. AV, you've got your hand up. If you want to unmute yourself, you can. Please feel free to and ask your question.
Hi, Top. Can you give me a clear meaning of situationship? I and one of my friend, we both like each other, and so are we in a situationship or what?
So a situationship, I would say it's like a casual relationship. So you're with somebody, you're seeing somebody, and you're not getting the commitment. They're not able to kind of lock it down. They're not turning it into something exclusive. They might be stringing you along. It might be that they're making promises that they're going to, yeah, I'm definitely going to commit. I'm going to get into this. We're going to become exclusive. I really like you. I'm really serious about you, but they just won't lock it down for whatever their reason is. They're keeping you at arm's length. They're leading you on. They might be seeing other people for all you know. And it's not a relationship. It kind of almost feels like it because you talk to each other. Maybe you meet up every now and then, and it might be that the contact is not regular. Seeing them is not regular. You don't know when you're going to see them next either, because they're not letting you know about it. It might just be, oh yeah, I'll come back to you, I'll let you know. So it's not like a relationship where it's more consistent and aligned, and they like you, they're into you, they're with you, that commitment has been made. It's not I'm in an R in and keeping things open and dangling the carrot, and you're just there waiting, almost like you're in limbo. You're waiting for the relationship to start. That's how I would define that. Does that answer your question? Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to step 2 because I'm really conscious of time. We've already got like 20 minutes in, 20 minutes before 1, and I've got more to go. Okay. I'm going to answer all those questions for you totally at the end. So let's go back through this. So next, step 2 is upgrading your beliefs about love, right? So we've talked about how we can we have beliefs that underlie our patterns, that underline the actions that we take. So this is an important step because what you believe about love, what you believe about relationships, what you believe about yourself, it shapes your dating experience, right? If you believe that love is hard to find, then that is actually what's going to show up in your results. That love will be hard to find. What you believe to be true will be true for you. You'll make it so your brain will look for evidence to back up what you believe, right? And your beliefs then, they drive your actions. They drive what you end up doing and how you end up doing it. They drive your choices. So if your beliefs about love are rooted in fear around something, or in scarcity because you don't think that that kind of a love or relationship or person exists, or constantly in doubt, what you do is going to reflect that, and therefore your success in dating is going to be limited. So you've got to shift your beliefs so that you can, you know, open the door to like having a healthier, more aligned relationship. So what you need to do is identify those limiting beliefs behind the dating patterns. So the things that you've identified at the beginning that you become self-aware of. This is what I do. This is what I get caught up in. I rush. I keep people at arm's length. I don't share how I feel. All that stuff is like, okay, well, what's the belief behind that? Right? Because that having that awareness is the first step to change. If you don't have the awareness, you won't know what to change. You won't know how to shift the belief or do something differently. So, you know, so reflect on your beliefs about love. Like, what do you believe about your ability to find love? So ask yourself that. What do I believe about my ability to find love? What do I think about the kind of people who are actually available or not available? Who do I constantly believe that I'm going to find, I'm going to connect with? You know, maybe if you're getting back out there dating after a long-term relationship or divorce, what assumptions do I make about dating after divorce or getting back on the scene? Like, maybe, oh, I don't know how to do this, or everything's different, everything's changed, or it's not how it used to be. I'm not going to be able to find someone because the way people find love now is so different than how it was back then, you know, so therefore it's going to be really hard for me. So ask yourself, you know, what are your beliefs? Some things, as I mentioned before, are like, all the good ones are taken. Maybe you're going to be thinking, oh, I'm never going to find someone who accepts my past, anything that's happened in my past. Maybe even the fact that if you've got kids, I've got all these children. Even myself, I have my kids from 2 different dads. You know, I could have believed that nobody would love me because of that. Nobody would want to be with me, but I chose not to. I chose to believe that that's not true, that somebody would love me, that they'd love my kids. And that's exactly what I've got. My partner absolutely adores my children. My children love him, and they don't really care about the circumstances and stuff like that. And then there might be another belief of, oh, dating at my age is absolutely hopeless. I'm too old. You know, I'm too old for this. I'm never going to find anybody. So those are some of the common beliefs that you might have. So once you acknowledge and you identify the beliefs, the most important thing then is to reframe them to ones that are more empowering, right? Because when you have new beliefs, then you've got a better mindset, a new mindset, and then you take better actions as a result, okay? Not those limiting beliefs that are going to keep you down and hold you down. So, for example, the limiting belief that is all the good ones are taken. If you actually shift that to something that's empowering, then it's like, actually, there are so many amazing people out there who would love to meet someone like me, right? I know some people would find that really hard to be like, oh my God, I can't imagine that. Then that's definitely a self-worth problem as well. You've got the self-esteem problem that is a different element to work on, but it's actually shifting that belief. So like one of my clients that I worked with, you know, he had this real belief that nobody was ever going to want to be with him because he had some health issues, and he was actually quite shy, quite introverted. And he was like, I'm just dead set on no one's going. I'm like, listen, surely there are like billions of people in this world, right? Billions. Surely there is at least one, if not like many, many more, who would want to be with somebody like you. Okay, someone who is just like you with your personality, who's not bothered about your health problems or whatever. You know, if you have that belief, then you're going to have a lot more confidence to be out there as well, instead of hiding away and shying away. And you're going to find them because you're going to expect it, right? And that actually really shifted his perspective. He actually said, you know what, I'd never even actually thought about it like that, because there really is more than one person out there who is going to want to be with somebody like you. Okay. And as a result of him shifting that, he did actually go on more dates. He met somebody who he fell in love with and who loved him just as he is, and they're actually now engaged. So it really makes a difference when you shift the way that you think, because it shifts the way that you show up in the world, and what you expect to see. So in order to anchor in this new belief, right, is making sure that you keep it on repeat. because you've got to rewire the thought pattern that you've had. So if you've constantly had this, all the good ones taken, nobody's going to want me, there's no one out there for me, etc., etc. I'm only going to meet emotionally unavailable people. Mine was, I'm only going to meet people who want to be in casual relationships. No one is ever going to want to commit to me, right? I had to shift that thinking. So you can do this by kind of affirmations. If you've heard of affirmations, saying things like, you know, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of finding the right person, or the right person is finding their way to me, they're looking for me now, right? So every time you hear the negative thought, oh, there's nobody out there for me, hold on a minute, you've got to shut that down and replace it. No, actually, the right person is out there looking for me. I had to keep doing that. No, that's not true. There are guys out there who would want to commit to me. I had to keep doing that. So you have got to be in charge of your thoughts by shutting them down and rewiring your old patterns. So first you need to know what the beliefs are. Then you need to like replace them with empowering beliefs. Then you've got to like have those empowering beliefs going on repeat until your subconscious starts to believe it, and then that belief will naturally drive the way that you show up in the world. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. You can also sit and kind of really visualize the ideal relationship, how it feels as well, and actually just sit in the feelings, because our bodies are actually very powerful too. You know, when we feel the feels, like, oh yeah, I used to do that. Visualization was one of my favorite tools actually, when I used to really think about, oh my God, this is what I want, this is how I want experiences, this is what I didn't really know what he looked like, but how I wanted to feel when I was with him, and still all that stuff. And that really kept me going, because I kept believing that actually really existed for me. If you're somebody who likes journaling, you can like even journal about your person as if you'd even found them, you know. You can write your gratitude, the things that you're grateful for about them, and how the relationship is going, and all the things that you believed in order to get there. So that is what I would say in terms of that side of things. So think for yourself, what's one limiting belief that you know that you have? Right, share that as well if you want to. Write that in the chat, and then I can help you to try and reframe it if you need help with it. AV, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Could you please share some insights you learned from past relationships?
Well, I learned from past relationships, you mean?
Yeah.
Or yeah, so do you mean that as in terms of a belief, or
Yeah, like everything you learned from your relationships, past relationships. You
right?
improved that. You
Okay,
thought to improve that thing.
to where I reframed it.
Yeah, or not to do that in future. Like those
Okay,
things.
yes, that's definitely something I think that would come in probably around your patterns, as well as your beliefs. So I mean, I could probably write a book. Maybe I will write a book about all the things that I've learned, which I do share as sporadically as I go out through all of my coaching and stuff like that with people. I think for me, it was more about, I think one of the biggest things for me was learning about my worthiness and what I believed that I was worth, and my own self-value. And I think once I shifted, not feeling like I could have the relationship that I wanted or that I desired to have, that helped me to, one, like get out of that situationship, because I really realized I deserved a whole lot better. But also in a relationship, it meant that, you know, I wouldn't just sort of bend over backwards or be a people pleaser because I didn't want that person to leave me. So that was definitely one of my things. There's so many, so it's a bit hard to sort of go through all of my patterns. But it is really thinking about, okay, well, where was I kind of going wrong? And it was the core belief that my needs were not as important as other people's. And because I was thinking from that energy, I was then pouring myself into relationships and over investing, and I wasn't getting back what I really wanted or needed and deserved. So I had to change that and reframe it to my beliefs. My needs are just as important as other people's. Which meant that I was able to start asking for what I needed, what I wanted in a relationship. I was able to push back if, I wasn't happy with something, rather than just being like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, you know, because I just want to make you happy kind of thing. I was like, no, hold on a minute. I deserve to be happy as well. I deserve to have my needs met too. So I'm allowed to share that. So that for me was a key thing. It was definitely around the value and my core beliefs and being able to shift them. Does that answer your question, AV? Yeah. Lovely. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Right, let's get on to step 3. So, step 3, uber important. Like, they're all important. This is uber important too. Is getting clear on what you want from your relationship. Okay, this is where I think a lot of people also trip up. And if when they do this, when they're not clear on what they want, this is why they end up settling for less than what they actually want. Right? It means that if you're clear on what you want, then it helps you date. Oh, sorry, my notifications. It helps you to date intentionally, and it means you don't settle for less, and they don't end up having what I call a lukewarm relationship. You know, a relationship where you're like, oh, this is okay. I'm happy enough, but you're not really feeling fulfilled and happy in the relationship, but you're happy. You're just going to stay there. You're going to settle for it, right? And mostly because you probably went into it just looking for a relationship, not the kind that you actually really wanted. So when you know what it is, you have direction. It helps you to screen people when you're dating them as well. And then you don't waste your time on people who are matched with you just for the sake of wanting to be in a relationship. It means that you won't settle for that. Some people just be like, oh, I just want to be with somebody. I just want somebody to love. I want someone to love. I want someone to love me. I want someone who's good company. But eventually that will fall apart because you're not happy. They're not happy. You're just going to stay in it, but you're not going to feel fulfilled, right? So that's why it's so important to know exactly what it is that you're looking for in a relationship, what it is that you want to experience in a relationship, how you want to feel, all of those things. And it's a crucial tool. It will become a tool for you as well when you're dating. So it matters because when what it is, what your non-negotiables are, what your deal breakers are, then it means you're going to be able to quickly assess whether you're compatible with somebody, not ride out that relationship for ages until it hits you like in the head after about 6 months. Oh, actually, we're not even really that compatible. Okay. Whereas you could have determined that right up front and not even gone there with them. So, the key way to do this, and this is something I teach, with my clients all the time with their dating help and in this my date to make course, which is a brilliant roadmap, by the way, which is kind of goes through this and a bit more. But you list your non-negotiables, right? The things that you are not going to compromise on. And these are things that should be based around your shared values, what it is that you want to share with that person, what your life goals are, maybe your lifestyle, all those kind of things, right? That if they didn't have all of them, this is not being picky, this is not about your exhaustive list, this is like your key non-negotiables that will make you feel fulfilled in the relationship. Somebody really needs to have those shared values with you, otherwise it's not going to work for you. And that's what you've got to match things on. And there are things that you can compromise over, that's fine, but we're talking about your non-negotiables, right? You've got to be really, really clear on those. I said to one of my clients the other day, she was talking about, I think she doesn't like the sound of sports, she was saying, on TV. She said, I hate it. And he's really into sports. I know he's a sports watcher, not a sports doer. I don't care about that. But it actually just makes my skin crawl. I was like, okay, wow, that's kind of deep. And I said, all right, well, ask yourself this question. I said, if they had everything else on your requirements list, all those things, but they loved sports, they loved watching sports, is that enough for you to let them go? And she said, that's a really good question. That's literally how you got to go with that. Is that enough for you to let that person go, or can you overlook it? Because then that's a need. That's something you can compromise on. But if it's like, no, that's my non-negotiable, I can't deal with that, even if they had everything else. And also, she'd have to understand why. What is the thing? What's the reasoning behind that? What is the thing that she fears, really? It could be that you just fear being a sports widow, where somebody just prioritizes watching sports and going to sports, everything over you. That if they had to choose, that's what you don't want. You don't want to feel alone. You don't want to be left alone, that kind of thing. You don't want to be neglected in place of sports. So that's your thing. So that was a really eye-opening question. And another client, I went through all of that with her, and we actually questioned each and every one of the requirements. That's what I do. I test them all out with everybody, because you might think it's something that you really, really want, but actually it's not. And there's always a reason behind it. I had another client who said she didn't want to be with somebody who smoked. And I said, why? And she said, because I just don't like the smell of it. I don't want it in my house. I said, okay, so if you smoked outside your house, would you be all right? She said, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I wouldn't mind if you smoked in the garden, as long as you didn't bring it in the house. I said, okay, so it's not a non-negotiable then. It's just, it's not a requirement. It's just a need that you can compromise on. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's true. That's cool. So it's getting that real clarity on what it is that you actually want, that's a real shared value that you know would mess things up. That same client actually then also, when she got really clear, she set up a date with somebody that she met online. And she said, before the date, I want to get on a phone call with them, just have a conversation. And she said, after the conversation, she said, I cancelled the date. And I said, why? She said, because they did not have my number one shared value. And because they didn't have my number one shared value, I just knew there was no point. There was just no point meeting up with them. And that was a massive bit of progress for her, because she would just go on dates with everybody up until that point. She would just see it through. But she just said, I'm not going to waste my time there. And then she was able to meet somebody else who actually shared her values, and that she ended up dating. So it's very important to actually know what it is that you want, and also know why. Why is it so important? And then think about as well things that might be deal breakers for you too. Like, okay, dishonesty. One of my other clients were talking about this the other day. She's like, I just hate dishonesty. I just hate it. I don't like these little lies. And I said, well, that's why it's important to even know what the value is, because some people, you might value honesty, they might value honesty, but they might be okay with white lies and you're not okay with white lies. So you have to be really, really clear about what level that is. That's why doing this kind of work really helps to have somebody like myself who can pick out the blind spots and ask you the questions and test you and challenge you. You can do it yourself if you'll become skilled at it, but it's really important to just know exactly what it is that you want and what you're looking for, and then know how to ask the questions or figure out how to compromise. So, some examples of non-negotiables. People love open communication. That's one of mine. I love it. Like, we've got to talk about everything, even if it hurts, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, even if I might not like it. It doesn't matter. You tell me how you really feel. You tell me what you really think. Obviously, you don't have to be nasty about it, but it's just open. It's openness, because then you can make a decision based on that openness on what you're going to do next, or where you're going to go next, or how the relationship is going to proceed. You might want, a non-negotiable might be somebody wants a committed monogamous relationship. These days, there are a lot of polyamorous relationships out there. You got to be on the same page with that one, right? It's non-negotiable. There's no room for compromise. No, it's just you and me, one and only. Another one might be someone who's very family oriented. They've got to be about family, and they've got to like kids, or at least be willing to take on my kids if you have them, right? Or want kids. That's a really big one. Okay. You've got to really make sure you're on the same page there, and also be willing to walk away if you're not, because especially with that one, I think it's a really tough one. Always somebody thinking that the other person's going to change, and that's where you're going to keep butting heads. That's why non-negotiables and relationship requirements are so important, because they're the problems that you will never be able to solve. They will never get resolved. You can't compromise around them. You can't find a way around them. That's why you need to know what they are. So it's really important for you to craft a vision for your ideal relationship. Have a really clear vision for, I think, your life, how you want to do life, and how you want your relationship to fit into that, right? Because that's going to help you to attract the right person and recognize the right partner as well. And we do go through a whole vision statement thing, exercise in my course, because you want to think about how that relationship is going to fit into your life. You want to think about your lifestyle and how that person's lifestyle, are they matched or not, right? This helps you cut out so much stuff, so much mess, so much unalignment by having all of this clarity. And it means that when you meet somebody, you already know straight up, oh, right, no, this isn't it for me. So I would definitely take some time to really picture yourself with what's your ideal life look like? What does your ideal partner look like? What's day-to-day life look like with them? How do you feel around them? What are the values and the goals that are going to bond you? You can even write yourself a relationship manifesto, write down what it is you actually desire, why you desire as well, what you want to experience, what you want to feel. So then you can see it when it shows up. You can be like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm feeling the thing that I wanted to feel. I'm experiencing it. Or something doesn't feel right here. Something doesn't, it feels a bit off. So there's something I need to look at here. What's the flag here? What's it telling me? No, this is not going to work for me. I'm not going to settle, right? I'm not going to try and fit the square peg into the round hole just for the sake of being in the relationship. Okay. So having all this clarity and intentionality up front really helps. And then also knowing the difference between what is a want and what is a need. So what is something that you actually really need? What's the superficial thing that you might be thinking about versus the actual core compatibility thing that's aligned with you. So for example, there are people that are I want a partner who's got a high paying job, they're making a lot of money. But actually what you really need is a partner who's financially responsible. Yeah, because maybe you've been with somebody who is gambling, or somebody who didn't have the ambition to do well and to bring income into the household. They didn't care. They were kind of like fly by the seat of their pants. That really impacted you, right? So maybe what you want is the financial responsibility, because really somebody could lose that high paying job at any point, right? Or they can decide to quit it and become an entrepreneur. So it's not about the job. It's more about maybe their their value around being responsible. So even though they quit the job or they lost the job, they're still somebody who's going to make an effort to get out there to find another way to generate their income, to make sure that your household has got money. So that's the difference, right? It's not the superficial thing that they have, or the car that could be towed away or written off at any point. Do you know what I mean? Or the hire in the apartment. Is not that. What is the actual real thing that you need in that situation? So it's just being really, really clear. Okay. So I would encourage you to really think about that as a very important piece, like before you get back out there, about what it is that you actually want, because then you're going to be able to determine, you're going to be able to use that in your strategy, in your approach to dating, how to screen people and vet people based on that. Does that all make sense to everyone? Thumbs up, thumbs down, messages about getting clear on your relationship requirements. And who is very clear on that here? I'd love to know. Who isn't? Who feels like, oh my gosh, that was so eye-opening. I really need to do that. I really need to take a bit more time to really think about what my non-negotiables and deal breakers are. Anyone? You can share in the chat or unmute yourself, especially if you want me to stop singing. Okay. Right. I see all your questions. AC, don't worry. I'm going to come back to them. AV, you've unmuted yourself.
You are a good singer.
Say that again, my dear.
You are a good singer.
I couldn't catch that.
You are a good singer. I like it.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to step 4. This is about dating with an intentional approach, right? So this is where you're now like stepping out there and like you're dating with what I say, your eyes wide open, especially now that you know about your beliefs that have got in your way. You now know what it is that you're looking for. So now you're going to start making choices that are actually aligned with what you want. Yeah. And also it's about how you put yourself out there, how you present yourself, and how you screen your potential partners. So number 1 around this is just putting yourself out there very authentically, right? Just being your absolute self. If you're authentic, then you're going to attract the right people, because they're the kind of people that want to be with you exactly as you are. And then you're going to repel the wrong people, the people who are not for you, who are not a match. So don't try and be someone that you're not just to get someone to like you. Don't say you like these things and this just because they do. Otherwise, you're going to end up being a mismatch. It's just not worth it, right? You want to attract somebody who likes the authentic version, not the inauthentic version, because that will make them the real match. So, for example, if you're online, make sure that you're creating a profile that actually really reflects who you really are, like your values, your interests, your lifestyle, So maybe instead of saying something like, oh, I like traveling, maybe be really specific about a trip that you've been on, your experience that you loved wherever you went, It could be, I like traveling. I love going to hot countries because I love the sun on my skin. Or I like, traveling and going up the mountains. I'm a climber. That way, somebody who's a bit like, you know what, I'm not into none of that. I don't like traveling. I'm a homebody. You can either compromise on that as well. Could either be like, you can stay at home, I'll go traveling, or they can feel the same, right? So just be really clear. And when you're obviously meeting people in person as well, it's just having the confidence to be yourself. And also be honest about what you're looking for, and not be afraid to scare somebody off, because the right person will not be scared off by what it is that you are actually looking for in a relationship, because they'll be looking for exactly the same thing. That's what you want. And then, as I said, using your relationship requirements to help you to screen for compatibility. And there are certain ways as well, certain questions and things that you can ask to actually learn whether or not somebody is in alignment with you. And I've got that in one of my lessons in my course. And why it matters is because you want to be clear when you're intentionally dating. It's about being clear. It's about just not wasting time on misaligned matches. And I'm not obviously talking about being picky like that exhaustive list of criteria, but just clear about your non-negotiables. So you can ask meaningful questions like quite early, not interrogate them, not interview questions. My client the other day said that. She goes, oh my God, he was just asking all these questions, bam, 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 bam. Felt like I was being interrogated. It's like, yeah, I think that's too early. You haven't even met yet. But it's like just casual, like, what's something that you're looking forward to this year? Then you can hear about what their goals are, what their values are. That's just a question. So there's loads of things that you can ask people around your values, the things that you value, to find out if they're on the same page. And I have this, I think it's either in my Where to Meet lesson, or it might be in it's definitely in the whole course. So there's something there that actually will really help you, and then watch them, observe, like, are they consistent with the things that they say? Are they consistent with the way they're behaving? Are they respectful? Is the stuff they're sharing aligned with you and your vision and what you want out of life? And remember, I know that people talk about opposites attract, like in terms of personalities, and that's very true. So we're not looking for someone to be just like you. You're looking for somebody who's in alignment with your goals and your visions, your values, all those things, because you can have somebody who's opposite to you who's also on the same page as you, and that you can actually work well with, and that's the thing that's going to bond you. Actually have a plan. So another part to being intentional and have an intentional approach is maybe think about where you're going to date, how you're going to date, right? Like, dating requires strategy if you want to get it right, rather than just leaving it to the wind and hoping that you just get flown or blown to wherever to meet people. Yes, definitely we can meet people by chance, but the thing that's going to make it likely to be a success is knowing what you want still. Whether you meet them by chance, you bump into them in the supermarket, they rear end your car, all the meet cutes that you hear about, still knowing what you're looking for will really help, as well as the chemistry. I'm not saying chemistry is important, by the way, because I think it is. I think chemistry is important. Your gut feelings are important. The logic, which is what it is you're looking for, is important, and your feelings are important. All of it in alignment, right? But when you know what you're looking for first, the thing that's going to be the foundation of a good relationship, that's the thing that you really want to make sure lines up with the other stuff, right? There's no point just having the chemistry and the feeling for somebody if you're not on the same page, right? Because that's only going to take you so far. So that's why strategy is so important. So like, for example, when you're thinking about where to meet your potential partner, right? And I think, yes, if you look on Meetup, I had that as an event for the last number of weeks. It's just a lesson. I think I only have it £7, and it's a lesson extracted from my Date to Make course to help people to figure out where to meet their potential partner. So there's stuff in there about apps, what apps to go on. There's places for you to actually go meet based on your values. So there's lots of bits there, and some other stuff around ghosting, I think, was in that one. Might have been another one, don't quote me. But you can figure out ways, places to meet people, like events to attend, meetups to join, activities that are aligned with your interests and values that you want to share with somebody, right? That's being strategic. That's just putting yourself in places to increase the opportunities for you to actually meet the right person for you. That's like being intentional. And then also another element of intentional dating is balancing the effort that you put in with actually being detached. Okay, because when you can overinvest emotionally right early on, that leads to you making poor decisions, because you're making them from just an attachment. Because we can get attached, even if somebody's not on the same page as us, we can still get attached to people, right? And then it's I'm in love with them, the chemistry there. That then starts making you continue the flow of that relationship, even if they're not on the same page as you. So that's why you don't want to throw yourself into things so deeply straight away, right? And also, if you keep doing it with every person that you meet, you're going to get burned out. Your heart's going to be tired and done, and you're going to, I'm so tired of feeling all these things and it's not working. So don't focus on going into dates to impress your potential person, like trying to get them to like you and thinking about how much you like them, but just focus on enjoying the conversation. Focus on discovering where you're compatible, if you're compatible. That's literally it. It's like, really see it as a learning experience, not like as a performance. You're not there to perform to get them to like you. You're there to learn, is this person and I compatible, right? And just put in the right amount of effort. Okay, the effort goes both ways. You invest as much as one another invests as well. Something else that's going to be important is setting boundaries and standards, right? Having boundaries helps to protect your energy and make sure that you get mutual respect. So be clear about what you will and won't tolerate. And I don't mean go in there and be like, I want this and this is what I wanted. And I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, you know, having conversations about, you know, actually, I really love talking to people more. I love communicating quite frequently. I really like it when people are honest with me. These are you just clearing, like being clear about what your boundaries are, right? So if somebody constantly cancels on you last minute, repeatedly, then you might think, you know what, they're not respecting my time, and that's a boundary for me. Okay, my time is precious, and they're just like, we're having these plans and they're not showing up. This is not the person for me. Or you can share, I don't like this, I don't do this. So if this happens again, I'm out. You know, you decide what your boundaries are, but make sure that you're open to sharing them in the nicest way. So that's that for intentional dating. So, you know, you've got, I just want to recap that because I went through it. It's being authentic, being yourself, the way that you show up on the date. It's screening for compatibility quite early on. It's having a plan for where to date and how you're going to date, right? It's balancing your effort and learning to stay detached, and it's having boundaries and standards for yourself so that you protect your energy, okay, and make sure there's mutual respect. So for yourself, I think about having like a sort of a framework even for screening your dates. Like, these are the values that I'd love. These are the shared goals or whatever. This is the lifestyle that I'd like my partner to have that aligns with me. So when I'm talking to people, this is what I'm looking out for. Yeah, this is what I'm interested in. So I know that if they're the opposite to that, or they're nowhere near that, then I know this person's not for me. Okay, so it really helps if you go into, obviously, don't take your paper out while you're on the date. Oh, they don't have that, or that, you know, you don't want to do that. You just want to have that in your mindset. You know what it is that you're going out there to look for. Okay, and just go have a learning experience. Go and have fun. My client went on a date the other day, or meet up, because I always say first meet up should be like coffees. Just keep it to a coffee for an hour, right? You're just literally meeting and getting to know if there's somebody you want to invest more time in. That's my personal belief. She said we went for a walk. We went for a walk for a couple of hours, and it was really nice, and we just had a really lovely conversation. So, you know, that was good. And I'll see whether or not that's gonna go forward or not. Whether, you know, I'd like to meet him again if he wants to. And I always say, if somebody doesn't want to meet again, not to take it as a rejection. I have this in a training somewhere. I've got all these trainings, guys, if you want access to them. They are low ticket because I really try and make them accessible to people, but to really help you with knowing how to handle situations. So like even things like around someone not wanting to meet you again, that's all right. You don't have to feel rejected. Oh my God, I can't believe I've been rejected. They don't like me. You're just not a match for them. The same way you might not want to go forward with somebody else. They're just not a match for you, right? So don't take it deeply. Just be like, okay, cool. This frees up my time and my heart and my energy for the right person. Okay. So that is definitely what I would say. Before we get on to the final step, does anybody want to have anything to say about that dating intentionally element? Let me just have a look on the chat. How to communicate the non-negotiables. Yeah, so I think in terms of communicating the non-negotiables, I'm not sure if you necessarily need to communicate them to people. I think because you don't want to go into a date saying this is what my non-negotiables are or my deal breakers are, and you know, I need you to know that, because if somebody hasn't got it, they don't have it, right? So it's not about like demanding them to be a certain person. They are who they are. It's about you being open to seeing if they're the right person for you or not, based on your non-negotiables, and just asking questions about what people value as well to see if you're on the same page. So I definitely wouldn't go in there just saying this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, because then are you expecting them to become that person? I've come across people who seem to have shared goals, but I guess it's about them willing to move forward as well. I find that some guys tend to focus on lifestyle, personality difference, yes, as opposed to share goals. And that is exactly it. That's part of the issue, which is where people are not being intentional. And, you know, you're of the exclusive group who are learning about intentional dating, right? Or people who are already clued up on that. Some people aren't, because they don't know. They haven't been taught, or they haven't learned, or they believe that this is the right way. It's about our personalities, and just the way that we do life and lifestyle. I think is important, but I think that can be connected to a value and to shared goals and stuff like that. So there's different ways, but some people they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to date. And it is possible for you to share what you know and just say, well, this is how I like to date. This is what I think is important when it comes to connecting to somebody, is about whether or not we're on the same page. Personality, yes, our personalities can clash. Definitely the way that we do things. But if you go back to, okay, well, do we have any shared values? Is there anything that bonds us to start with, to begin with? Because your personalities are going to clash, but you can actually work around your different personalities. But when you understand the other person, they understand you, and they know, well, she's just like that, she says things like that, or she's like that, but that's okay, I still love them anyway, but we've got this in common. This is the thing that keeps us united. So you can share that with somebody if they're like, oh yeah, but our personality. So, well, this is how I like to do things, this is what I think is more important. You could share that, and it could be eye-opening for them. You could give them a perspective shift or not. So that just really depends, basically, on the person that you're with, whether there's somebody who's kind of open to hearing and to listening and being open-minded. So I hope that helps a bit, AC. Does anybody have any questions they want to mention around the intentional dating, or can we move on to the fifth one? If you're all good. So I'm just going to take water because I've been talking for about an hour. Okay, last step. Right. So I think this is something that is important for the keeping element, right? So I didn't actually really clarify that the first two steps, I guess, around really attracting the right people, because you're thinking about your patterns and your beliefs and what you're expecting to see, right? And having the type of relationship you want. Choosing the right person really is going to come around from your relationship requirements and your intentional dating approach. And then keeping the right person, I think, really falls in around knowing yourself in a relationship, right? How you show up to the relationship, what you bring to the relationship. So this is really important. So this step 5 is, I'd almost say it could even be a step 0 if you wanted to do this bit of understanding before you go out there. But I think it's also something that you will be learning continuously throughout your dating, throughout your relationship with somebody. This has definitely been a massive area for me and my partner, but it is actually really knowing yourself in a relationship. So having that self-awareness again of who you are, how you show up, is going to be really important to make sure your relationship is healthy and it's aligned. When you understand yourself, like what your emotional needs are, what triggers you, how you tend to relate to somebody, then you can communicate more effectively with them. You can navigate the challenges that will always come up, and you can bring yourselves closer together. You can create deeper connections. This is going to be the part that helps you to keep the relationship. So there are things around understanding your love languages, right? I don't know if you've heard of love languages. If you have, put your thumbs up. Like knowing how you give love and how you receive love. That helps you to communicate your needs, and it helps you to understand your partner's needs, right? So if you haven't heard of the 5 love languages, I think it's Gary Chapman. He's the one who coined the phrase and talks about them. It's things like words of affirmation, like compliments and saying nice things to somebody. You think that's your way of showing love, or acts of service when people do things for you, receiving gifts when you get gifts, obviously, spending quality time, or physical touch, right? And you can have them in different orders. So I know mine is quality time. Spending time together is so important for me because that helps us to bond. Having conversations, that for me, I need that emotional connection to feel close. And then words of affirmation. I didn't realize that before. I thought mine was physical touch, but I did a quiz. I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I do like hearing nice things. I do like getting confirmation through words as well. Actions are so important, but I like hearing it too. My partner's is definitely, he loves to show love through acts of service. He loves doing things for people. He also loves receiving love through physical touch. He loves affection. We're both very affectionate people, so that really works for me. That was definitely one of my non-negotiables. So it helps me to understand that, where I'm a physical touch person, but if I know that he likes that, then I pay a bit more attention to making sure I give him a lot more affection. I don't hate it. I love it. But it's just being really mindful of that for him. Or when he does lots of things for me, knowing that him doing all those things is him showing me love. But I also ask for more of the quality time and like, babe, this is my thing. That was probably one of our things that kind of clashed a bit, because I was like, this is what I need, babe. Like, we could still get on without seeing each other, but that I need it more for that emotional closeness. And I had to really explain that to him. But because I understood it, I was able to share that. It didn't make anything wrong between us. We're just different. So for you, it's thinking about, how do you most feel loved and appreciated? You know, so thinking of when you felt deeply loved, what was kind of happening in that scenario? What was the other person doing that was making you feel that way? You know, so like I said, it can create misunderstandings. But if having an awareness of your love language, being aware of theirs, it can help you to kind of bridge that gap. Yeah, help you to step up and show them more in the ways that they want to experience love. So none of our ways are better than others. There's no right or wrong. It's just what we prefer. And it's about thinking about the other person as much as thinking about yourself, and knowing how to communicate that to them as well. There are things like attachment styles. I don't know if you've heard of attachment styles before. So that can really influence how we approach our emotional intimacy and how we deal with conflict in relationships. So there are 4 attachment styles, which you may or may not have heard of: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Disorganized is a mixture of all of them. So when you have an anxious attachment style, you're constantly seeking reassurance. You constantly need like someone to keep telling you that they love you, that they value you. That's, you know, that's different from words of affirmation. This is like, there's a bit of a neediness there. You need that person to keep on telling you, right, how they feel. You need that. You need the validation. If you're avoidant, you might pull away when things get too close. Like, you know, if somebody's starting to maybe want more from you emotionally, you might be like, oh, I can't, this is not for me, right? But if you're secure, you feel very comfortable with intimacy, and you feel very comfortable with independence, right? Someone who's anxious probably struggles to have that independence. Someone who's avoidant probably really loves the independence and loves to pull away more. Okay, that's kind of the difference. And that can really sort of impact, you know, how close you can actually get to somebody. All right, all of these things like really can drive us. So it's really good to know. I definitely used to be anxious. I used to be well needy. I used to be like, where are you? You know, why aren't you texting me? Why aren't you talking to me? You know, if they're not, then I'm like, oh my God, they don't like me, because they haven't spoken to me for like flipping 30 minutes. You know, oh my God, if they stop liking me, they don't like me. Or I still feel like that's a self-worth issue too, because you've got to feel really grounded in yourself and in people's ability to be a part of you. So I had to really work on that. Whereas I'm much more secure. My partner definitely has an avoidance tendency when things start to get a little bit too emotionally intense or close. And I could see that he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna be over here doing this, babe. And I'm like, okay, I spotted that. I've seen that about you. So it's for me about understanding his need for space, understanding his need for pulling away at times, but also saying to him, but I need this from you. So when you pull away, this is how it makes me feel. Da, 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 da. So we've been working on that, and we're definitely getting a lot better with it. And I know why. Like, we have our reasons why we have been the way that we have been. So I also understand that, and that helps the relationship. So knowing these things is good, because this is where you can clash with somebody in the relationship and think, you know, it's wrong and it doesn't work. But it's about working together. So, like, you know, for yourself, if you're somebody that maybe is quite anxious, you have to learn how to self-soothe, like to calm yourself and reassure yourself in those situations, because otherwise you'll end up being so dependent on your partner for that validation all the time. Like, I can't live without them, I need them to validate me. You shouldn't need your partner to validate you, to be honest. You've got to validate yourself. So you've got to learn how to manage that side of yourself. I think if you're avoidant as well, it's like really tapping into what are your fears around intimacy. What is it that you're afraid of? Is it the vulnerability? Are you scared to be open? Then it's kind of dealing with that. Is there something there that needs to kind of be healed? So that's why knowing your attachment style is quite important. Also knowing how you handle conflict as well. That helps you to approach things and agreements in the best way. So there are different ways people can be avoidant. They might get aggressive. You might be somebody who's into compromise. You might be into collaboration, right? I'm all about harmony. I love collaborating. I'm always about, babe, it's me and you against the problem. You know, it's not me and you against each other. That's what I'm about. Teamwork makes the dream work. So in conflict, I would rather have the conversation. Like I said, let's get it out there. Let's talk about it. There's no point running away and avoiding it, even if it doesn't feel good. So it's knowing kind of what yours is. Some people's patterns when it comes to conflict that are not helpful to the relationship are shutting down, switching off, don't want to talk, don't want to listen, don't care, don't want to hear. Or you just like, I'm not talking to you, stonewall people. You might overreact because somebody says something to you, and then suddenly you're just like, oh my God, why did you say that? And a lot of it could be because of feelings of guilt or shame or anger. You don't know how to process your feelings, so you just react, right? And sometimes something that started off really small can really escalate into something massive. It didn't need to go there. So think about your relationship history and think about how you have handled your conflict in the past. And then you'll see what your pattern is. And that's something for you to really be mindful of, to start thinking about how can I be more, to demonstrate more helpful patterns in the way in which I handle conflict. So some practical tools might be using things like I felt like this when you said this. So you're not pointing fingers, oh, you said that to me, you did that. That's not helpful. Nobody likes to get pointed at like that and told about themselves, because it gets their back up and it makes them defensive, and then it can make them angry. But you've got to say, I felt like this, when you said this, I felt like this when this happened. And knowing why you felt like it also really helps, right? You're understanding yourself. Thank you, Avi. Things like taking time out when things start to get a bit crazy. It's like, okay, let's just have a minute and get clear. This is our new thing that I'm working with my partner, because that happens with us. We've really come to learn that we both are scrambling to be seen and heard and understood, because when we grew up, we didn't feel like that. And now we've got the confidence to ask for it, but we were both wanting it. And we weren't listening to each other. So it's like, okay, we both want the same thing here. So we need to take it in turns. So it's like, who brought the issue up in the first place? Right. We'll deal with your issue first, not deal with the reaction, because sometimes that's where it came from. I bring up something, he reacts to the thing I brought up, and then we're like doing this. It's like, no, I brought up the issue. Let's deal with mine first. And then when it's completely resolved and I feel seen, heard, and understood, I know you've understood me, you've acknowledged it, you've demonstrated it, right, let's talk about your reaction to it and why. That is something we've had to learn over the years. Literally, probably in the last number of months, we finally got to that point, because we kept clashing. But when you know that you're great with somebody, you're aligned with them, it's just your styles, it's just what's happening for you. That's why knowing yourself works, because I was like, oh, I think that's what it is. It's like, oh yeah, I think that's what it is. So we have our self-awareness, so we're able to come together and work it out. And again, focusing on what's going on now, in the here and now, not bringing up stuff from the past. That's something I'm really big on, is we deal with this now, we resolve it now, and that is it. We don't need to talk about it again. We don't need to be like, oh yeah, but when you said that, like last year, don't do that. Sort your thing out and clear it up, because you don't want to keep throwing things at each other all the time. That's how you create fractions is it fractions? I think it's fractions, or splits, cracks in your relationship, and then it keeps embedding it in. Another thing is making sure you think about your own childhood influences as well, because some of your early experiences might shape how you relate to other people and what you expect to get in relationships from the things that you've seen growing up. So you might think about, what messages did you receive about love and relationships when you were growing up? What did you see happening in front of your eyes? And how do you think they influence your beliefs and behaviors today? Unfortunately for me, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of shouting, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt. And on the plus side, it meant that I am not the kind of person who's going to be screaming and shouting and calling names and make my partner feel bad. That's something I've decided to do, and to also be aware of my emotions, not to say they're not important, but not to retaliate and act just out of anger, because, again, it's not about the you versus me, it's about us being on the same side, because I witnessed that they weren't listening to each other when their emotions were high. They were just arguing from their emotions and not for the fact. Bizarrely, it did really affect my relationship, because I was being a bit too cool, calm, and collected, and I wasn't showing my emotions. He's like, I can't connect to you. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I need to really think about that. That's where I got it from. I need to at least be able to express my feelings, but not be horrible and nasty towards him. That's something that I'm not, but I'll express how I feel about that. And that's really helped. So knowing yourself, knowing what you witnessed, knowing the messages, the things that you've seen, it will really help. In terms of the patterns, or how you show up, or what you believe is the way to be in a relationship or to have a relationship, because you've seen it. So think about your own patterns and things that you witnessed. What kind of dynamics did you see going on, maybe with your parents' relationships, or it could be your friends' parents, all that kind of stuff. And if you need obviously help with unpacking that, then definitely make sure you get that help and reach out, because you want to make sure your relationship is successful. You know, and it's just making sure that you know that your relationship is going to have ups and downs, right? And you've got to be able to regulate yourself emotionally. You've got to be prepared for that and know that it's going to happen. But keep your eye out for the triggers. Pause before you react to something. You know, oftentimes the way people come at you is also because of their own stuff. It's not necessarily about you. And it's about having that understanding. And it's also about asking for that understanding, asking for that grace and the compassion, not as an excuse to keep behaving in a certain way, but you want to make sure that you're learning about yourself and you're doing better. You're not just accepting it, but you're doing better if it's not working for your relationship. So you can ground yourself even in the moments of conflict, breathing to calm yourself down, because it enables you to think better. It relaxes you and you can think more, okay, what's going on here? Let me mind my emotions and be mindful about what's actually happening. And remember that we did agree to do this. We agreed we're going to have a timeout, so let's do that. All those things. Even maybe before going into the relationship, create yourself a relationship blueprint, your personal one, right? So that you know what you're going into, how you are. Write down what this is my love languages, this is my attachment style, and this is how I'm going to work on that. This is how I prefer to handle conflict, or this is how I've done it, and maybe this is how I need to do it differently. Who influenced me when I was growing up, and how do I want to shift that? Right? Have that as your own little blueprint and manifesto, so that you're ready before you go in. You know, think about, what do you need in your partner to help you feel safe and fulfilled? What do you need from them? How do you need them to show up for you? And what do you need to bring to a relationship to make it thrive? How do I need to show up in the relationship to make sure that it's healthy, it's not toxic, it's fulfilling, and it's loving? So those are things I would say in terms of wanting to keep your partner. Has anyone got anything that you want to add? To get into a relationship before marriage, how can I convince her? That's a really interesting question, Avi, and I'm not sure if I can answer that here. Let me come back to that in a second, okay? Because I want to get into the conversation. So, what are your thoughts on that last part about keeping the relationship? Thank you for your thumbs up. And having that self-awareness and knowing yourself before getting into a relationship. Anybody got anything that they want to add before I share one quick bonus step? And then we'll get into the Q&As. I'll answer all these questions in the chat. Could you remind me what the first two steps were? The first two steps, yeah, I'm going to definitely summarize it at the end, Chris. The first two steps were dating patterns, so becoming aware of your dating patterns. And secondly, it's upgrading your beliefs, so upgrading the limiting beliefs that you've got that are behind the patterns. And so just a quick bonus one in terms of another step is just being the partner that you want to attract, right? For me, it's like about being a happy single. So the energy that you put out there, the mindset that you have sets the tone for the kind of person that you're going to attract, because often like attracts like, right? Who we are is often what we kind of get back. So if you think about what it is that you're looking for a relationship, think about how are you being first and foremost, right? That's why the self-awareness bit is key. It's a bit like what you said, I think it was you, Chris, that was talking about, sorry if I got it wrong, about other people think about personality differences and stuff like that. It's about, well, if you want to attract somebody who's like you, or not like you, but a certain kind of person, are you being that person as well, so that you can actually draw them into your space? So that's about having that self-awareness, knowing what happened in your past relationships and stuff like that, and being prepared to make a difference, thinking about the way you show up with your own relationship behavior, your own challenges and stuff like that, making sure that you are emotionally resilient, that you love yourself. You want to be with somebody who loves themselves too, because then they are not going to be needy and dependent on you. So you also be that too. So you're not going to be that needy, dependent person. Maybe like somebody who you probably see that, oh well, guys don't often go to therapy. I'm always, that's the thing. It's like, if you know that you need help, go and get help. There's no shame in it. If you want to be like a more emotionally well, or have the emotional and mental well-being, and that's going to help your relationship, then do what you need to do, because then you want to find somebody who's also going to be about growth, who's also going to be about personal development, who's going to care enough to work on themselves so that their relationship with you is really good, right? Make sure that you are fulfilled in your own life and you're happy in your own life as well. And that because then you're going to be more likely to attract people who are also ready for a healthy relationship. Don't be putting on somebody else, what's the word? You don't want them to fill the void because you're lonely and not happy in your life, right? You want to be happy and content in your life and find somebody who's also happy and content in theirs, so that you're not depending on each other to be each other's everything and fulfill each other's every need, because that's not possible, not doable, So do things that you enjoy, go out, have fun, have hobbies outside of your dating and outside of your relationship as well, because that also brings something more into the relationship too. Make sure you go in with the mindset of, it's all about mutual support and collaboration. It's not about what can I get from the relationship, what can I get, but what can I give? What can I give into the relationship as well? So it's not always thinking about what can they offer you, but how can you create connection and how can you bring a value to this interaction. So that's your bonus step, is about be the person as well that you want to attract. Yeah, because like attracts like. So what qualities would you be looking for in a partner? What would you like somebody to be wanting from you? Okay, so I'm gonna wrap that all up there. And to summarize the 5 steps: learn your dating patterns so that you know where you've been going wrong, so you can change the actions that you're taking to get to where you want to get to. Upgrade your beliefs about love, about relationships, about worthiness, about yourself, because those are going to drive those actions, and make sure they're more empowering beliefs. Get clear on your relationship requirements, non-negotiables, goals, etc., so that you can make sure you don't settle for less than what you actually want. Date intentionally, like show up as your most authentic self. Be clear about where it is that you might be able to find somebody who shares your values. Put yourself in those spaces. Use your goals and your requirements to screen people. Make sure you screen people, you vet people. Don't be picky, but you vet them based on what your values are. And also know yourself, know who you are in a relationship and what you need, what your emotional needs are, and also what it is that you want to bring to a relationship. And then the bonus step was around being an ideal partner for your ideal partner, being a happy single, having a life that lights you up now, so that you're not expecting somebody to come in and fill in a hole, fill in a void, and and also think about what you're going to give to the relationship, not just what you're going to get from it. So those are my steps. Before I launch into the Q&A, if you want to go like deeper into these things, if you want my help to actually go through each of these steps with you, if you want to actually go through some exercises together, then you can go through them, ask me questions, get my coaching, like go a little bit deeper on these things, then join me next week. That's what I was going to say. I'm going to help you to implement the strategies and help you to stay on track, make sure you're on the right track, right? Because this is a lot of stuff to kind of do and work with. But next week, each day, I'm going to go through each step, share a bit more about each step, and then also give you an exercise, one of these exercises that I've mentioned or more, and then you can complete them, come back to me, and then I will make sure that you are on the right track. So this is actually going to fast track you to finding your person, right? Because you're getting hands-on help, right? You're getting guidance, you're getting practical support, you're getting my ears, you're getting my expertise, all the things, right? You're going to get some you're going to have major breakthroughs. I feel sure of it. So if you want to do that, come and join me next week for the coaching week. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's going to be in a Telegram group. And it's literally only £11 to do that for the week. That's like less than a cup of coffee a day, right? Just to get help so that your year starts really well with your dating journey. Okay. And if you want to take it even deeper, I mentioned about my course, my Date to Make course, which is essentially the roadmap to get you from where you are now. It takes you through all the steps, but there's so many more exercises, etc. But it's not even just about the exercises in the course and all the trainings, but it's really about having a really clear roadmap that's going to get you where you want to get to help you be less frustrated, to give you so much clarity, but you also get my help every week. So you can do the course on its own, or you can join the membership, and every week you'll get help from me. You can ask me questions about the stuff that you're going through. You'll get my responses, you'll get my support around the course that you're going through, so you don't have to do it on your own. There's so many other different things that are going to be available to help you with. You'll get access to this complete hub of all these different things that are going to support you around things like how to handle ghosting, how to handle rejection, where to meet people. God, there's so many. I can share the link with you so you can actually go and have a look and see what the course and membership is all about. And just this weekend, from today until the end of Sunday, I'm doing a special January offer. So it's only literally £33 per month instead of £89 per month to join that membership. And you can cancel at any time. So you could literally join for 1 month, go through the whole course, get my help for 4 weeks, and then you're gone. And that's, crazy, because for 4 weeks of working with me is usually about 444 for like group coaching. So it's a really great value membership to be a part of, to get your roadmap, to get so many questions answered, know how to handle different situations. So I will drop I'll drop the details in there so you can have a look at the course and membership. If you're interested, let me know and I'll give you the link for the £33 per month instead, because on there at the minute, I think it's at an offer that I'm actually going to shift. I'm going to change this month as well. But the original price is at £89 per month. Or you can buy the course on its own, which I think is currently £297. So yeah, but I'd love to help you. I'd absolutely love to help you. So whether you want to just join me for next week for the 5 days for £11, or you want to join the whole membership where you get the whole roadmap course, you can also come and join me next week as part of that price. You don't have to pay a separate price. You can come and join me for it. So either £11 for just next week's 5 days, or £33 per month for the whole membership. That's if you want to get further help and further support to fast track your journey, right? So I'm going to just put in the chat the link for next week, and then also, so just bear with me. So if you pay, it takes you straight to the Telegram chat, and we'll get started for next week. And I'll put this in there as well as a replay. So this is for the 11. Did I send that to everybody? I hope I did. Yeah. And then also for the date to make, give me a second. I've got to get the right link, and then I'll answer all of your questions, because there's so many questions, which I can't wait to help you with. Where did I put the link? Just bear with. I should know it off the top of my head by now, but for some reason I do not. Right, okay. Do you know what? I'm going to find that in a second. So let's talk about these questions that you have got. And somebody also put something in here. Right, you've got a bunch of questions. Thank you. Right, okay. Somebody said thanks. Right. Let's see. How can you... I've answered that one. What does it mean? I've answered that one. How about if they text during a date? Oh gosh, if they text during the day, that's kind of flaming rude. I would consider that to be very rude. How do you handle it? How would I handle it? I would say something. I'll say either if that's, what would I say? Let me think. Because obviously I haven't been on a date for ages. I think I did have somebody do that once. That was in my era of not being I didn't have enough self-worth to leave. So maybe I would. I'd be like, if that's more important, if you've got more important conversations to have with somebody else, then I'd be happy to just leave this here and go, basically. And if they continue, you can just get up and be like, I'll be off. If you feel like you want to meet again, that's it, your prerogative, and you feel like you want to just actually pay attention to this conversation that we're having, then let me know. Otherwise, I'm out. or if you feel like this is definitely something that they are more likely to do because they don't really care about being on that date with you, I would leave, because for me it shows disrespect. It's different if they say, I'm really sorry, I just need to quickly send this text to somebody, because it could be a time pressure thing. If they've got kids or somebody's asked, I want to book these tickets, and that's pinged up. But if they're sitting there and they just keep picking up their phone, really texting throughout the day, I think that's very different. And I think you would I would definitely say move on from that, bounce from that one. What do you think, AC? Oh, sorry, I think I tried to put this oh, let me edit it. What do you think? And please feel free to unmute as well if you want to and answer. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, that's my stomach rumbling. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay, right, now let's see, what else did you say? Oh, and that's the link for the date to mate. I hope it works. Just opening it up. Yeah, it does. So you could learn more about the membership. Like I said, if you want to join that, just let me know and I can give you the £33 link. Right, now, if you're on a date, also, what's your view on people who ghost after a date? I once had a situation where the guy said he wanted to meet again and suggested meeting the following week via message and then didn't come back. Then I would just leave it and move on. That is basically what I do. If he doesn't, so meeting the following week via message and then didn't come back to you. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends how far apart it was since you had that message. Whether it was like a couple of days, if you want to be like, hey, are we still on for this? And if they don't respond, then I would just let them go and just move on, basically, because it just shows that they're not interested. I know that certain people, things can come up in people's lives and stuff can happen, but I wouldn't dwell on it. I wouldn't chase them. I don't really believe in expending energy on people who you don't really know, because I think sometimes we put so much into strangers, right? People just meeting are essentially strangers, and it is about that kind of like equal investment from one another. And if somebody's not got the respect to come back to you, then I think that says a lot. But like I said, yes, stuff can happen in life and other things can come up, and they just didn't get a chance to come back to you because they didn't intend to. Then it's up to you. If they come back to you later and say, I'm really sorry this happened, I'd still love to meet you. Then you decide whether or not that is somebody that it's worth progressing with and trying again or not. Yeah, so I think it can depend on the circumstance, how long it's been since they suggested that and came back to you. Was that last week and they didn't come back to you, then it means that you're not really there on their mind and they're not keen. So I wouldn't hang around. I certainly wouldn't put all of my eggs in one basket either, because until you have formed like a mutual connection with somebody that looks like it's going somewhere and you're both agreeing to kind of be exclusive with each other, you don't really owe anybody anything. And that's not about being mean. You don't have to, and it's up to you, because I was somebody who preferred to just focus on one person at a time just because of my energy, and I was busy, I didn't have things, but at the end of the day, if it wasn't going to work out, cool, I'll move on to someone else. I may have chatted to a few people at a time as well, and then just got on the dates to see if they're who's worth proceeding with. So, but yeah, if it's a shame if you go on the date and it was nice and you had a good time, and then they ghost, then it's not for them. But don't get hung up on them. I hope that helps. Please feel free to give me thumbs up if that helps, or hearts, or unmute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so someone you're on a date with says they're signed up to multiple dating platforms. Is that a red flag? That's a really good question. And the reason I question it is because I was somebody who was signed up on multiple dating apps. I don't consider myself a red flag. I think at the time I think I was just spreading my net wide. I was just like, let me just see. And I think it was more about what happens after that. So the downside, I think, to online dating is there are so many options and choices. And if people are of the mindset that they're looking for this perfect person and they don't really know what they want, they might always look for somebody else, because they're not getting something here. I'm going to move on because that person's there and that person's there and that person's there. So this is why it's important to think about who you're connecting with and how grounded they are within themselves, how much they actually love themselves, and whether they're doing it for self, they're just looking for validation, and whether they're actually interested in pursuing something with you and letting those go. So I don't know, because some people may have had a bad experience with one. Some people may just be like, well, let me just see if I can meet somebody somewhere to actually form a connection with, because one app's just not working for me. I'm just not really meeting the right caliber of people. So I'm going to try again. So it just depends. I think the thing to really look for is more about how that person behaves with you. What are they like? How much attention are they giving? How much investment are they putting into this? Are they interested in meeting you? What happens after that? I think that's the thing to know. And then I think it's good to have the conversation about, you know, when you're getting exclusive, to release the apps. I know, like I said, for myself, I was a one guy person, so I just didn't have the time. So when my ex and I connected, and my partner and I connected, I he was the only person I was talking to, and he said the same. He said, I'm not really talking to anybody else. And I'm like, as soon as like I knew that we were going somewhere, I mean, I wasn't even really on the app anyway. And he said the same. He said, if we get somewhere, if we connect, you know, especially if we get like down, he's like, I would prefer if we were just like exclusive and neither one of us are down. I said, I'm down for that. I don't really want to do that. I'm not looking for loads of different people. I'm literally looking for one person who's right for me. That's it. So I don't need that app. So I was out, you know, I didn't even speak to anybody else anyway. So it's people's behaviors, people's actions is what they do after that. So I hope that answers your question. AC, if you've got a follow-up question, let me know. I'm just looking to see. Okay, that answered that question. Cool. Okay. Yeah, the texting one was during the day. It was once during the day. Yeah, so if it was once during the day and they didn't continue doing it during the day, then, you know, I would probably be all right. But it just depends. Like I said, it's about persistent patterns of behavior and what they said before they even picked up the phone. Did they even show you the respect to say, I'm really sorry, I need to do this? Or did they just pick it up, cutting you off in between? That kind of tells you a little bit about somebody. Right. Let me go back up to see what other things. Okay. Yeah, we talked about that. I've come across people, find some guys. Yeah, we talked about that. I'm going to come back to that one, Evie. Could we ask them how they addressed conflict normally? I don't see any harm in asking people anything, really. I'm just trying to think if there's another question that you could ask in terms of, okay, how do you generally handle conflict? And the thing is, somebody might not even know how they generally handle conflict unless they're in it. They might not be able to tell you. You know, that's why it's important for you to sit and think about yourself and how do you handle conflict. They might not handle it. They might not know until they're in it. So you might not know how they handle it until they're in the conflict situation. But you could ask them. You could just say that, you know, I've been reflecting on how I show up in like arguments and stuff like that, and this is what I'm a little bit like. What about you? You know, you could start by sharing stuff yourself first, and then gives them an opportunity to be able to share, well, I'm a bit like this actually. And you're looking to see how they answer. You're looking to see if they're going to be honest about even their flaws, and you know, whether or not they've got self-awareness, or whether it's like, oh, you know what, I've never thought about it, but I will think about it now that you said, let me think about it, or I'll come back to you, I'll message you about it later. Do you know what I mean? So everything's all about watching somebody's reactions, watching how they respond to things. So yeah, let me know. Does that help? Yeah, awesome. Okay. How would we secure the relationship? It's becoming mutually exclusive. Should we wait for the guy to suggest? Okay, Evie, I'll answer yours next, because yours is a tricky one. That's why I left it for a second, but I'm going to come back to it after this. Actually, you know what? You're right. Let me come back to yours, because you have to go. So I don't know. So she denies my proposal by saying it as prohibited in her religion to get into a relationship before marriage. How can you convince her? So you have to give me a little bit more, because I'm not quite sure. What is your proposal? When you say your proposal, what is that? By saying it's prohibited in her religion. So what does that mean? Oh, it's prohibited to get into a relationship before she gets married. Is that what you mean? Yeah. How can you convince her to get into a relationship? I'm not sure if you can. I don't know if you can convince her. I think if that's her values, if that's her choice, then I think it's about leaving her to either to be with somebody who's going to respect that, or you finding somebody who's going to be open to getting into a relationship before they get married. I think it's a bit of a tricky one. If that's something that she really steadfast believes in, then I don't know if you can talk someone into it. I don't think there are magic words that you can say. You can have a conversation. You can tell her how you feel. You can ask her, is there any compromise? Is there any way around it for her? What is it that you need to do in order to gain her trust? That might be helpful to her. But if she's like, I'm adamant that I literally go from this to being married, or or you need to talk to my parents, whatever it is, find out from her what it is that she needs in order for her to feel comfortable to be in that relationship with you. But I don't think you can talk her into it. I think it's about having a conversation with her and finding that out and seeing where you can meet her in the middle. Does that help, Avi? Yes. Okay, great. So yeah, I was going to see if you wanted to chat, but that seems to be okay for you. Oh, Tops. Okay, that's been very helpful. No props. Chris has gone. And then the last one was yeah. Anyway, hopefully, Avi, if you go, feel free to come and join the coaching week next week, as I mentioned, if you want to get more help. I think you might have come through Meetup, so feel free to drop me a DM there or email if you've got any other questions. And I'll be sending out this replay anyway for you to keep, so you can go back over stuff if you want to go at it on your own. How would we secure the relationship? I suggest becoming mutually exclusive. Should one wait for the guy to suggest it? I don't think I don't believe in always. Okay, I know some people would like to let the guy lead, but you also have needs and things that you want. So I think maybe give it an amount of time where you feel that this person is the person for you, who's aligned with your goals, who's aligned with the relationship requirements, who is somebody that you want to invest more time in getting to know. Because even when you get into a relationship, you're still getting to know that person and getting to know if they're the right person for you. As time goes on, you're hoping to develop that bond, to have a deeper connection, to really fall more into it. So if your exclusivity can just be that as well at the beginning, it's about focusing on that one person. So I think I would just give it time as well to make sure you're happy with that, and that it's going to go somewhere, and that you're getting the reciprocal investment and effort and responses and consistency that with your own eyes. And you can have that conversation like, I think that it might be a great time to start getting into it's just been the two of us, or how do you feel about that? Or are you seeing other people right now, or are you just interested in focusing on this relationship? You can ask that question, but definitely give it time when you feel like it's actually something that you want to get into. What do you think? Does that make sense, AC? Yeah, do you feel okay with that? Have you got any other questions before we round off? And if not, I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's masterclass as well. How have you found it? What's been most helpful and most insightful for you? You can unmute as well if you want to. All right. Is mutually exclusive the same as girlfriend, boyfriend? Yeah, it can be, and I think it's up to you two what you decide to call one of yourselves. But yeah, that's what I would say. Yes. Now you've become my girlfriend, you've become my boyfriend. That's what I would call mutually exclusive myself or my partner. The breakdown of each of the steps is really useful. That's great. Was there any particular step that really stood out for you that you felt like, that's something that I really need to focus on and work on for myself? No, nothing in particular that was mostly insightful. Okay, well, I am going to wrap up. If you have any other questions, yeah, hopefully you can come along to the coaching week. Also look out for, sometimes I do free dating advice days as well. So if you come through the meetup group, I would definitely keep following and keep looking out for the events, because sometimes I just do those. I just randomly like to do them on a Friday. Like, come along, ask me your questions. The non-negotiables in particular helpful, and self-affirmation. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much for all your help. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yes, remember, if you want to come along next week and work through things bit by bit by bit, I'd be more than happy to help you to like really get going. And you can also use that time to ask me any more questions as well. So it's like, it's such a valuable space. So, but I will send out the replay anyway and the details again if you decide that you want to jump on board. But for now, you're welcome. I'm going to sign off. So thank you so much, AC. Have a great day and have a great weekend. Bye.